Hello, it's Monday, February 25th. What's on the agenda for today? We are launching the Reforge Lab spring programs. So that launch starts today. Early announcement emails go out at 9 a.m. PST, and that's what I was working on all weekend. So cool to finally have a kickoff. What's up, buddy? Hey, give me that ball. That kicks off today, and also Amy and Oliver get back from Ireland today. Come here. Amy and Oliver get back from Ireland today, so I'll be going to Stewart Airport, which is in Newburgh, I believe, Newburgh, New York, to go pick them up, and excited to have the family back here. A lot going on with the airport pickup and getting everything launched. So far, woke up today and set up the newsletter, which my own newsletter, which goes out every day at every Monday at 10 or 11 o'clock. Looked for some new VAs to help me with some administrative tasks and set up things for Shogun and a few other like miscellaneous email stuff. So that's the day. We'll be driving over to the airport. Got a few calls scheduled during that drive. Try to knock those out. And gonna work from a Starbucks over there. That way I'll be close to the airport and can just, at like 5:30 or whatever, swing over to the airport, pick up Amy and Oliver, and then bring them back, have some family time. I was in LA. I was talking to Eddie McKenzie, and I was asking him about whether or not he's gotten together with the people that we played poker with in a while. People like Aaron, Jeff, Chris, Eric, etc. And he said, no, they haven't played poker, and they actually haven't seen each other in a long time. And they missed each other. They were trying to schedule something, someone flaked, etc. And Mackenzie said, Mackenzie said, you know what, Chris, you were the glue that was holding everyone together. And I think that it's nice to think that you are the glue holding everyone together, and that when you leave, it kind of all falls apart, and it's a nice hit to the ego. But this is a bad thing. It is a bad thing if I left and all of a sudden the friendships that I tried to help people form suddenly dissolved, and it's not what I was looking for. And I say that it feels good for the ego because it's nice to feel important, right? It's nice to think, oh, I was the one who connected all these people, and without me, they just don't stay connected. But I don't think that's what ultimately you want to build. You want to build something that's going to last beyond you. And it means that I didn't do a good enough job of building the relationships and helping people stay connected while I was there. And this is something that's been on my mind a lot, actually, as I see how Reforge is developing, and as I've taken a step back from my own writing, and I'm starting to look at the systems that I had in place in order to write consistently. And as I try to add on marketing that I'm doing for Shogun, and seeing how I'm trying to make my time fit into all these things, but it's really difficult to not spread yourself out too thin and still keep time to spend time with my family. So I just want to talk a little bit about Reforge, and then my own writing, and how I'm handling Shogun, and how I'm starting to see the importance of being able to remove myself from the systems and create a place where you're going to have longevity, whether individual components, such as myself, are in there or not. So on the Reforge note, it's less about me and more about how I've seen Brian slowly start to pull himself out, which has been really interesting. So when I first joined, he was definitely integral to every single part of the system, from applications to program creation to going to the live events. And over the last 2 years or so, he's definitely pulled out a lot of the application process. So he's really just kind of watching from above and seeing as we execute on behalf of Reforge to get people into the program, to get them accepted and get them onboarded into our programs. This year, Dan has been helping lead the way, but he's been coaching me up to kind of take over, and it's just been interesting to watch. Now there are multiple layers, right? Like Brian's way up here, and he doesn't handle any of the day-to-day. Dan's watching over me as I execute on the more tactical level, and eventually Brian should be completely removed, and it should be Dan just kind of watching from the 30,000 foot view while I execute all the pieces for a launch. On the content creation side, Brian's been putting all of his focus into hiring and bringing on people who can take over the content creation process. Because before it was just Brian, then it was Brian and me, and what we've realized is that that's ultimately not going to work. We were reading about Udacity, and they have like a 40-person team working on, let's say, like 10 programs. So that's 4 people per program, and obviously there's going to be a lot of synergies with that big group, but the way we were doing it before is just not going to work. So it's interesting to watch him devote so much energy into hiring, even though on my level I feel like, man, there's so many other things we should be working on, there's so many things that we should be focused on. But even though the hiring is not as urgent, it is just as important. So I can understand why he's devoting all his time to that. And finally, from the live experience side, last Friday or Thursday we had a call where we were talking about live experiences. And man, I'm like, Brian, you're like getting too involved, you're doing too much here. But I realized that it's really important to him to maintain the quality bar of those live experiences, and he's already doing a good job of removing himself from the application process, removing himself from the program creation process. And so he's okay with spending time on the live experience to make sure the quality bar is still high and we can figure out what that system looks like. And eventually, maybe a year down the line, he can remove himself from there as well. So all these things got to happen in steps. It's often very painful. Like this whole process of trying to remove Brian has been super painful, but that's what you need to go through, the pain in order to get through this. So that's the Reforge example. I still want to talk about the examples from my own writing process as well as examples from Shogun. So my writing process, now that I've taken time to write less and I'm kind of looking at the systems that I put in place, I realized that I was doing a lot of, I wasn't writing efficiently. Like basically I was spending like 2-3 days a week writing, and this was an overcommitment, and not that it was overcommitment, but there were all these other things that I wanted to focus on. And writing that much was preventing me from doing those other things. So I'm starting to put into place a system that will allow me to write a lot more in a smaller, concentrated period of time. And hopefully I'll get a chance to talk about that more later. So that's number one, putting together a better process so that I can write more in a shorter period of time. And then there are 2 other parts. The second part is automation. There are all these things in terms of how I'm assembling my newsletter that was all manual, right? Like basically I had to go in and create a new template for the newsletter, and then I had to go pull articles in from Pinboard that I had saved throughout the week, and think about, oh, why did I read this and what did I think was interesting, and paste that into the new template. And what I've done now is by using if this then that, a new template is created every single week for me, so that's automatically dropped into Google Drive. And then using Zapier, I've streamlined the process of, as I read articles, I go into Pinboard and I will write down notes, basically just talk out notes as to what I thought was interesting about this article, what kind of dots it connected for me, and then I'll insert that. And once I save that bookmark, it will automatically add to a document that is collecting all the articles that I read. And then from there, I can pull everything that I need from that article. I can pull everything I need from that document into the template, just basically drop it in, and 80% of the work of assembling this newsletter is all set to go. I am finding a new VA to help me with, so that's the automation part. And the third part is part of the work that can't be automated but needs to be done manually. I'm finding a new VA to help me with that process, as well as some of the earlier stuff that will help streamline the that will help streamline the writing of blog posts. So that's kind of how I've been thinking about removing myself from the system and letting either automation or delegation take care of that part of the writing system for me. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about Shogun. So I started doing marketing for Shogun Albany, and I was doing a lot of it myself just because I wanted to learn and I wanted to see what the process was. I think it's important to get your hands dirty and see what you like, see what you don't like, see what's hard about the whole process. And so that means I was doing the photos, I was doing some like light editing, dropping it into my hard drive, dropping it into Dropbox, deciding which photos to use for content, creating the visual assets, scheduling them, posting them. And basically it was a lot, especially when you consider that that's only one small part of marketing, right? That's like Instagram, that's one channel, one type of marketing, social media, and there's all these other things I want to do, whether it's like in events, whether it's the newsletter, whether it's fixing the website, etc. And so what I started putting into place was having a designer help me create the visual assets. So now that's basically set up. He's helping me create assets for the feed, for story. He's doing both picture and video, and then he schedules it into a tool called Content Cal. And basically Content Cal lets me know when it's time to post those, and I just go in, I do the post, I edit some copy, and boom, we're all set to go. So that's been really cool to see. And I think the next step in the evolution is to go ahead and outsource who is taking the photos. The tricky part is I want to do it on the cheap because we don't have a marketing budget. So I've been trying to think creatively about how to do that, whether that's like bring in family members who live close by. For example, Zach, he goes to school at RPI, and he could be the one to help me take photos because that's something that he's interested in. There are a couple other people that we could bring on to hire. But I think that's the next step in what I outsource because that's really not a core competency of mine. I enjoy going in there, and I would want someone doing the photos and then me shooting like B-roll on my own camera or using the iPhone, and doing stories that way and doing more, not having to have like the professional look, but doing things that are more in the moment and more like live. So that's it. I think I hit, we talked about Reforge, we talked about my own writing, and we talked about Shogun. And again, I think there's something about feeling like you're absolutely needed that stokes the ego and makes you feel good, but that is not what you're trying to build. If you're trying to build, you need to empower other people to help you build, and you need to empower people to help you build, as well as set up the systems so that they can continue to build without you. I'm continuing to learn this. I realize it's important on a personal level as well as a professional level. And when I think about the impact that I want to have, like, it's just important to me that these systems be in place so that I can play in a lot of different sandboxes, and I can do a lot of things, yet have them all be at a high quality. On the way to go pick up Oliver and Amy from the airport. It's going to be about an hour and a half drive. On the way to go pick up Amy and Oliver from Stewart Airport. It's going to be about an hour and a half drive. Amy sent over a story. Oliver wearing his Goodnight Moon shirt. Can't wait to see the guys. And some broken things in our database right before we sent out our emails for the early announcement launch. So Buf is hard at work trying to fix those. Interesting how, like, doesn't matter how much you test, as people come in, we're going to see errors, we're going to see bugs, things are going to break. If anything, I'm glad that I opened up the pages on the weekend, so we had a trickle of applications come in, and we got to see that something was indeed broken versus seeing it as soon as we opened up the floodgates, so to speak, with our early announcement email. I think I'll actually have that on the checklist for next time. Open it up on the weekend so that we have a trickle of applications and we can see if things are running smoothly.
they are, Buf and Dan are hard at work. They're kind of slacking away each other. I'm just watching in the Slack channel, and they're trying to figure out all the other issues that they've noticed now that we're live. And so I think I'll grab those. I'll grab all the comments afterwards and add that to our QA list for our next cohort. Just constantly iterating, constantly trying to get better and figure out all the kinks. So that's it. It should be about an hour, 20-minute drive, and we'll be at the Starbucks where I'll work until it's time to go pick up Amy and O.
Who are we going to see today? Who? Dada. Oh, Dada.
Vanguard scheduled appointment for this Friday, so looking forward to getting all the investment accounts back up again, especially now with Amy starting work. And called Solange, got the expense taken care of, and still got an hour to go. So I'm going to listen to this hiring interview that Margot Ahrens did with Rob, one of the other members on our Team Awesome Call group, and hopefully they'll pass the next hour before I get to Starbucks and jump back into the workday.